Hey everyone, Schematist here, and I'm back with another tutorial on how to build an RPG boss theme song. Now, this project was inspired by the soundtrack for Bravely Default. Before I get into a rant on how awesome that game was, let's just jump right into this tutorial. A few people have asked me about doing this, and I was a bit hesitant at first, but just because there's so many different styles to writing these, and I didn't want to lead anyone on a weird path, but hopefully you can take what I'm using here and kind of bend it to your liking. So in this highlighted red section here, the main thing I wanted to do with this intro was to let the player feel a heightened sense of emotion for what's in front of them. Because at this point, as a player, you can already see the creature in front of you is probably about 3 or 4 times the size of your protagonist. So I used these are three instruments here, the strings and the piano and this kind of dark pad here for some atmosphere to kind of create the sense of divine judgment, a holy, divine, evil power almost, and all in one kind of sitting. And it sounds kind of light and feathery, yet it does have a hint of darkness in it, which leads right into the patterns here, which is the main aggression part of the song. But first, let me play this section here so you can kind of get a feel for how that sounds. And that's it. If you would have heard that pattern on its own normally, you probably wouldn't think about something like a dragon or an ogre or whatever the case it may be in the situation coming at you. But then you know it's in a video game, you kind of say, okay, maybe this creature is of monumental size, and then you get to use your imagination a little bit, which is why I thought that intro would have kind of worked in this scenario. Okay, so that intro kind of led the way for the main body of the song, which is right here, highlighted in this red section here. And it looks like there's a lot going on, but there really isn't that much. So I have got one pattern for the guitar here that I've placed right adjacent to each other. I've got a pretty simple, straightforward drum pattern. I haven't made many variations to it. I've only made one big variation on this section here with drum number 5, and it wasn't that crazy. I probably added a couple of more cymbals just to create that kind of rock element. Then I kept the chords the same, so these are the same chords. I want to keep this as simple as possible. And then at the bottom here, I have this deep atmospheric bass for some support and for some stability. It holds the song in place, kind of gives it a little bit more body, a little bit more depth. And then this square lead here at the bottom, the very bottom, whoops, right here, kind of pushes that old school 16-bit kind of emotion, and I love that. So what I'm going to do is just going to play this section here so you can kind of hear how that sounds. So now that you've heard this really big, massive kind of build up to the song, you can kind of hear how this section really contrasts from this section here. From this beginning part, it's kind of like just painting the scene, and then this section here really just kind of explains what's going on in the scene. But before we get into the next section of the song where the melody really kicks in, let's stick here for a little while longer just so you can see it's not much going on at all. I really broke it down to like the simplest bare minimum of instruments here. So what you're gonna want is a really strong lead, which I use the guitar for. The drum pattern is really basically it's on autopilot. Now I wouldn't recommend this, but again, this is just getting your feet wet, nothing crazy. A regular kick snare kind of pattern will do perfectly fine. You don't have to kill yourself over that. It's just to hold the tempo, hold the rhythm. The electronic piano chords, nothing too crazy going on here. If you take a look, very basic stuff, a couple of triads, nothing outrageous, no like extreme jazzy chords, and you can see I just took those same chords that I put here and placed them right next to each other. So again, simplicity over complexity. So now the last things that we have here are the square and this dark atmospheric bass. The square was really the changing point that was the only thing that really set this intro heading into this next section. So now you can see that when you hear the song all at once, you might not even think about breaking it down, but now you can see it's not many instruments at all. You've got about 1, 2, 3, 4, and then if you want to count the square, that's 5. But now that section pretty much wrote itself. Now we keep going here. This is a little tricky part here. I added a crash sound, and I also added a reverse crash here. So if you don't know how to do that, I guess I can show you right now actually while we're on the topic. So when you take out a crash, it's gonna look like this, right? Or something along those lines. Actually I lied. Let's go back here. It's gonna look like this. This is what a normal crash would look like. If you want to make a reverse crash, what you have to do is click in this top left corner here, and then you want to first hit make unique, and then it's going to come up with a different number here. That's going to make this its own unique pattern, so whatever you do to this won't affect the next one. So now all you have to do is double click, and you see this option here that says reverse. All you have to do is click it, and that's it. It automatically gets reversed. You can unclick it and you can see how that works out. So basically I took a reverse crash, placed it here before to build up toward this main melody here, and then I unreversed it in this one to kind of, you know, set the pace. So let's highlight this section now, and we can see what's going on here and break this down even further. Again, I didn't do too much. The only thing that was added really was this bass here, this opal bass. Really subtle bass, but it really does its job. And again, the choir. The choir was also a really big change. It's one of my favorite instruments, so I tend to use it in a lot of my songs. But it really adds that kind of epic, wide, again, divine judgment kind of feeling. The drums, again, are basically on autopilot, but I did change the pattern to the guitar here, and I changed the electronic piano here and here, but not too much, not too crazy. But let me play this now and let you know what I have. Okay, and that was basically the core of the song. At this point, your work is basically finished. I want to highlight one section here, actually. This little section is basically to condition the listener to the next melody, the next movement, the next element of the song, because these guitar patterns kind of drastically differ from the ones that we used before. Even though it keeps the same rhythm, the same tempo, but the melody, what the player is humming, what the listener is humming, it is a little bit different. So what this little section here is doing is preparing the listener for this next half. So after they've heard this section, they know it's going to come again, but with a little variation, and that's what the choir is for, because this is why I love this instrument so much. Just from adding this choir, you kind of really shoves this song in a really high state of intensity, just by adding that one instrument alone. Basically everything in here is the same. The electronic piano is the same, the drums are mildly different, and the guitar pattern is mildly different, but it still adds that high stage of intensity, which is why I feel like the choirs are just the best instruments ever. But as you can see here, as from before, I did use another reverse crash. Right here, you can see it building up. It starts from here and it comes up, and then it crashes right here in this section. And this is what I'm going to get into now. Now, because before this, in the previous sections, there was so much epicness, there was so much loudness and intensity, I thought it would be a good idea to kind of calm the listener down a little bit. So I started subtracting a lot. I took away the guitar lead, I kept the drums really nice and steady, and I added the addition of the piano, which you only heard in the very, very beginning of the song. See, at this point, the listener almost forgets about it, forgets that it was even there. So now let's play this section and see what we have. So I really like this section. It was actually one of my favorite sections in the whole song. Just because this little piece here kind of gives you the illusion that everything is going to be fine. You kind of have this moment to catch your breath, even though it's a really chaotic scene. You still have this little bit of a moment's rest, even though it's not for a long period of time. And that's what this guitar here really does a good job of doing, I think. Just kind of bringing everything that you kind of hoped all to hell, saying it's not over yet, basically. I forgot about the bells here because they were kind of at the bottom. I almost missed them. But they do a really good job at adding a little bit of atmosphere. Nothing too crazy. They don't really stand out. They just kind of fill the space, fill the emptiness. And with this chord, the chorus again here, big dramatic tension which comes up at the perfect time to send the song back into the loop, which I have here, fading out. And I'm going to play this next section right here now. Let me highlight this section here. It's not crazy at all. It's basically showing the listener, the song is over, and when it's going to repeat back, and it's going to probably pick up somewhere about here. I didn't really finish that part, but I'll go back and tune that up later. But let me play this now. And that's pretty much it. That's the end of the song. So I hope this helped, guys. I'm sorry if this kind of ran a little bit too long. I try to keep it as short as possible so I can not lose the attention of you guys. But this is how I tend to write my battle themes for bosses. But I think I'm gonna probably end up making another one in a different style. Maybe something more of a tactics kind of a style, and less of a I don't know. I'll figure it out. But thanks for checking in, and take care.